with Vikas Sir. पैसेज नंबर 141. ओके, ये आपकी 100 वर्ड पर मिनट की स्पीड होगी ओनली फॉर एसएससी स्टेनोग्राफर के लिए, आपका डीआरडीओ के लिए जो भी स्किल टेस्ट आए हुए हैं ना, उन सभी के लिए मेन है हमारा एसएससी पे फोकस. ओके, ये आपकी मंथली मैगजीन है, 100 वर्ड पर मिनट से रहेगी. चलिए रेडी, स्टार्ट. Honorable Chairperson, Sir, I thank you for giving me permission to speak on this compulsory voting bill 2014. The contention of the honorable member who has brought this bill is that a voter who is eligible to vote in the election should exercise his right when called by the election commission. He wants all the people to vote in the elections. The reason as to why he has brought this bill is that in the elections there is lower turnout. The other reason is that it encourages the citizen to exercise his right in order to elect their representative. So the result of the elections would show the will of the electorates and not just a segment of them. I would like to remind the mover and all the members that in India we have seen for the past few elections there is increase in the number of electorates who turn to the polling booth every year. This compulsory voting has a history. It was mentioned that it is the duty of every citizen to participate in decision making, but attending the assembly was voluntary. They made every people to come and participate in the decision making process. That was the main reason in the olden days. This compulsory voting method has been in place in about 72 countries all over the world. In some countries the law is there, but it is not enforced. In some other countries the law is there and they are compulsorily enforcing that law. In India so far there is no compulsory voting in any place, full stop. But recently in Gujarat, in the local body elections, the assembly has made voting compulsory, full stop. It was mentioned that anybody does not vote, he would be penalized. In countries like Australia, Argentina and Brazil, compulsory voting is there and the law is enforced. If an electorate does not turn to the polling booth, he is punished. In this bill, the member has mentioned as to how this exercise should be done, how the people should be encouraged to vote. If they do not vote, how they should be punished, and so on. All these things are mentioned in this bill all over world. The reason for compulsory voting is that it looks upon the voters' participation as a civic duty similar to taxation or compulsory education or military service and so on. In some countries, military service is compulsory. In some countries, universal participation of electorates will help in electing a government which is more stable, legitimate, genuine in nature, and reflects the will of the people. This prevents disenchantment of socially disadvantaged groups. But the problem, if you follow this method, is that you have to conduct elections on holidays. In countries where this method is followed, election is conducted only on Saturdays and Sundays. People there vote through postal ballot, pre-poll voting is allowed, email voting is allowed, and even mobile voting is allowed. All these facilities are not available in our country. If people are not likely to support any candidate participate in compulsory voting, there is likelihood to spilled votes or blank votes. This ensures that there is no possibility of a person being intimidated and prevented from voting. In India, we have the nota option which can be exercised if an elector is not willing to vote in favor of any candidate. If you introduce compulsory voting, it will prevent extremists or special interest groups to influence the voters to compulsorily vote for a specific candidate. But in non-compulsory voting method, it is the motivation by the politicians that encourages voters to go to polling booths. The outcome of election where voting is compulsory reflects more the will of the people rather than who is more able to convince the people to take time out of their day to cast vote. Compulsory voting motivates people to take part in the election process and politics. The advantage of compulsory voting is that there is need for less funds for companion because it is compulsory. People have to vote. But there is social disadvantage full stop. In Australia, where there is a preferential method and compulsory voting, they select the candidates and they contest the election. Depending on the preferential vote, the candidates get electorate funding from the government. So some of them are intentionally going through this process to collect money from the government. The only advantage seems to be that studies show that compulsory voting improves the income distribution among the voters. Full stop. I do not know what the reason is for that. The people who argue against compulsory voting say that it impedes upon the right of the voters. It is a civic right rather than a civic duty, like right to free speech and right to attorney. Other reason is that it impedes on Article 2 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which talks about the freedom of political opinions and thus right of the citizens to believe in a political system other than the democratic one, such as an absolute monarchy. ओके, ये थी आपकी 100 वर्ड पर मिनट की स्पीड थी और आपके 850 आपके वर्ड्स हैं. ओके, जैसे आपकी जैसे DRDO का स्किल टेस्ट आने वाला है, एम्स का आने वाला है, SSC का भी आने वाला आपका मान लीजिए फरवरी मार्च में कभी भी आ सकता है. आप अपनी तैयारी को हर रोज डेली तैयारी को अच्छा रखें, ठीक है. और ये जो हम डिक्टेशन आपको हर रोज प्रोवाइड करेंगे, इसका लिंक मैं आपको डिस्क्रिप्शन में लगा के दे दूंगा. अगर आपको किसी भी शॉर्ट हैंड के रिगार्डिंग कोई भी प्रॉब्लम आती है आपकी, तो आप मुझे कांटेक्ट कर सकते हैं, ठीक है. मैं आप कमेंट बॉक्स में कमेंट कीजिए, उसके बाद मैं आपकी कमेंट का जवाब दूंगा. ओके, जैसे टाइपिंग से रिलेटेड कोई भी प्रॉब्लम आती है या आपकी स्पीड नहीं बढ़ रही, 80 की स्पीड है, 90 की स्पीड नहीं बढ़ रही, ठीक है. अगर ये हम डिक्टेशन को ना, अगर आप 400 है, 400 आपके वर्ड्स हैं, 400 को कम से कम आप 10 बार प्रैक्टिस करोगे ना डेली का, तो आपकी 100% आपकी स्पीड इंक्रीज होगी. काफ़ी सारे स्टूडेंट मुझे बोलते हैं सर हमारी स्पीड नहीं इंक्रीज हो रही. वो बच्चे स्पीड इंक्रीज तो हो जाती है उनकी, लेकिन उनकी प्रैक्टिस नहीं है, ठीक है. इसमें जितनी शॉर्ट हैंड में आप प्रैक्टिस करोगे ना, उतनी आपकी स्पीड इंक्रीज होगी. आप 100 की कर लो, 120 कर लो, 140 की कर लो, 150 कर लो. आपकी SSC का क्लियर करने के लिए आप ज़्यादा 130 तक स्पीड रखो, 130 के आगे मत जाओ. लेकिन बच्चे इतना कर लेते हैं कि 130 140 तक कंप्लीट कर लेते हैं. ओके, आज के लिए आपका यहीं तक रखते हैं. ओके, उसके बाद 80 तक. ओके, उसके बाद नेक्स्ट जो सेशन आएगा हमारा 80 तक आएगा. ओके, थैंक यू वेरी मच, हैव ए गुड डे. अगर आपको ये वीडियो आप देख रहे हो तो इस वीडियो को आप लोग अपने फ्रेंड के साथ ज़्यादा बच्चों को शेयर कीजिए और हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कीजिए और लाइक भी कीजिए. अब जब आप लाइक करते हो ना, लाइक करने के बाद मुझे मोटिवेशन मिलता है कि आगे से और अच्छे से अच्छा आपके लिए कंटेंट ले आऊँ. हर रोज़ आपकी द हिंदू एडिटोरियल की डिक्टेशन होती है, प्लस आपकी हिंदी की डिक्टेशन होती है. जो बच्चा हिंदी की शॉर्ट करना चाहता है, हिंदी की डिक्टेशन लेना चाहता है, हिंदी की लीजिए, और इंग्लिश की लेना चाहता है, हर रोज डेली का द हिंदू एडिटोरियल लेता हूँ मैं. ओके, थैंक यू, हैव ए गुड डे.